Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the dual casting seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which the first special card that we play on our turn will play twice. Today we're going to be playing another deck that uses a bunch of cards that recently got buffed, so let's give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Syndicate Jackpot Crime/Firesworn deck, because Firesworn is one of the archetypes that got a bunch of buffs from the most recent patch. So that means we'll start rounds by playing the Fallen Knight, or the Eternal Fire Priest, then spawn in a bunch of units to boost them using things like Congregation, Smuggle, the Eternal Fire Disciple, and perhaps most importantly, Grand Inquisitor Helveed, and Cleaver. Or Firesworn Scribe to generate coins every time we do that spawning. Then if we'd like, we can use Senior here to transform some of those tokens into cut-up lackeys, giving us more damage every time we play a crime. Or use Damnation to transform some of those tokens into more of the Fallen Knights. And if we start running out of space, we can use the Lonely Champion to consume those tokens. Then we'll finish the round with Irae to give boosts to all of our units. Or alternatively, use Bone Talisman. Then in round 2/3, we'll use Fallen Knight again if we have it. And if we're all out of them, we'll use Hemmelfart to play Congregation, and then convert the tokens that we spawn in into other Fallen Knights. And we can also play Skewertooth early, which, as long as we have 2 coins, we can give it immunity, making it safe while we play tons of crimes and boosting it up in the process. Then we continue our strategy from round 1, spawning in additional units to boost up those Fallen Knights, and use our echoed copies of Irae as our finishers. And not to mention, if you can sneak in a tunnel drill, that'll of course give you lots more damage. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, it combines the Firesworn archetype with a bunch of crime synergies, giving us lots of row flooding, boosts, and damage. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Skellige here, and they'll go first. Okay, so we have a Fallen Knight to get boosted whenever we spawn in units, and then we can spawn in those units with Helveed, the Eternal Fire Disciple, and with Congregation. We'll probably want to save Hemmelfart for round 3, and potentially Skewertooth as well. Might use Tunnel Drill in round 1. We might save Senior as well. Some strong cards, yes. Just a matter of what goes in round 1 and what do we save for later. Okay, then it's Crow Messenger. And they will summon the other one from their deck. That means they have an Alchemy card in their hand, which is probably not that much of a surprise. I assume they're a Rain deck since they're Rage of the Sea, and they have Ryogon in their graveyard. So let's start with the Fallen Knight. And we'd very much like for that to stick, but if it does get destroyed, then of course we can bring it back in round 3 with Hemmelfart. Okay, it's an Armored Drakkar, so they're not immediately destroying it. They're focusing on putting up points themselves. So then let's go Congregation next. That'll give this Fallen Knight a big boost, hopefully putting it out of removal range. It may Scald, so some discard as well, and they do have Mortvarg. Now why don't we go with the Eternal Fire Disciple in this row, and use that to get some more units spawned in. Okay, well, they certainly have plenty of targets for Primal Savagery. But tell you what, let's use Damnation to convert into some Fallen Knights. Then we'll continue to spawn in more tokens. Okay, then it's Armor Up, and once again, the 2 damage is actually surprisingly significant. Now let's use Excommunication on these Firesworn Zealots. And of course, remember, any special cards that we play here are not going to be the first special card on our turn, so we'll only get 1 copy of them. So I don't think Fisstech makes much sense, since we won't have enough poison to actually remove anything. But let's go with Smuggle. And then on round 2, we'll get rid of another one of these Zealots. And this time go Congregation. And spawn in even more Zealots. Okay, they'll pass. So that gives us the round 1 win on even cards, no less. Okay, so we drew into Triss, who is great. Fisstech, now that we have it directly in our hand, can remove a card. And Bone Talisman is great finisher. We're both on 8 cards here, so we could try to push. At the very least, we have 1 throwaway card. So what if we get rid of Fisstech? And Cleaver is probably a better option here. The thing is, all of our cards are awesome, and we don't really want to use any of them as a throwaway, so maybe it is worth pushing quite a bit here in that case. And if we are to do that, then let's lead off with Skewertooth. And I really meant to use the Tribute ability to gain immunity so that he was safe as our first card that we play here. But we're just going to hope that they don't have enough damage to remove him. What we should have done was use our leader ability first, so that he was definitely going to be safe. But Sigvald will not deal damage immediately. But I think I know what we're going to see here then. Probably the Callus and or Melusine and or Cyrus to deal damage to Sigvald. But now let's go with Hemmelfart. And with Hemmelfart, spawn in some of these dudes. And now that gives a boost to Skewertooth, which means it's much safer at this stage, fortunately. And we'll use Hemmelfart to convert into a Fallen Knight. So as I was saying, the cards that we had were all really good. So I'm thinking we're going to push pretty hard here in this round. Go with Champion's Charge, which is enough to get rid of Hemmelfart. And that Fallen Knight. Does that change the equation? Perhaps a bit, because now our unit spawning is not nearly as powerful, but we do still have a lot of crime synergies with Skewertooth, and we have set ourselves up to use Senior here, so perhaps we do go that route. The thing that I don't like about that is that we aren't thrilled about dealing damage to Sigvald, but let's go for it. And use the Tribute to make the conversion into lackeys, giving us more damage every time we use a crime. Okay, then it's Delirium. And the interesting thing about that is that actually would have been capable of getting rid of Skewertooth, I suppose, since he doesn't have the immunity, it doesn't matter too much here. But they do not remove any of our key cards. So I think now let's go with Tunnel Drill. And on our next turn, we'll play a crime, either from Cleaver or Triss, and load up on the damage and the boost. And that will probably be the last card that we play in this round. Primal Savagery, once again. Okay, is enough to get rid of one of those lackeys. And Senior. But what it does do is it does give us targets outside of just Sigvald for us to go after with our damage. Fortunately, since as I was saying, we weren't thrilled about damaging him. So let's use Triss. And, oh, Fisstech could poison Sigvald, which is quite an intriguing prospect. So I think we definitely go that route. Because down he goes, and that means with these coins, we can now destroy these Bear Abominations. And that puts us up 26-0. They'll go with Oniro. Okay, and Scorpion Decoction likely to get rid of Tunnel Drill. Yep. Next time, the Runestone for Quartermaster, who does not have anyone to damage. Unless they use a leader ability charge. That's pretty clever. I'll give him that. So we are still in the lead, which means we could pass here and force them to go a card down going into round 3. That's certainly an option, but we do still have some crime synergies on the board with the Lackey and with Skewertooth. I'd like to save Helveed for round 3 in case we get additional Firesworn synergies, so let's go with Cleaver here. Get some extra damage, and we can spawn in at least one of these Cleaver's muscles. Then Heat Wave. Oh, for Skewertooth, that's big. It's still not enough for them to catch us. Even after the rain. So obviously, once again, we're still in the lead. We could pass, force them to go a card down in round 3, and give us a pretty decent advantage. However, I'm smelling blood here. Perhaps we do play Helveed now, and spawn in some additional Firesworn Zealots, especially if we combine that with our leader ability to get a whole bunch of those Zealots on the board. And then, on our last turn, use Bone Talisman. That could be worth doing. So, tell you what, we'll give it a shot here. Okay, it's Royal Decree into Dogger. Oh, well. It's awfully late to be playing him. Morkvarg. Oh, no. I was just thinking about how technically the order of operations in which I used our leader ability was probably suboptimal. We would have definitely preferred to have spawned in the Zealots first and then use our leader ability. So instead of giving a boost to Helveed, we would have had more coins to use to get more Zealots on the board. We can still use Bone Talisman, which I think is still worth doing here. Gives us a 10-point lead to what is their last card. It's Fukusia, which I assume is to get Ryogan. It is. That is, of course, their huge combo, so we bled it out. But it is going to be enough for them to pass us in round 2. Okay, and we have a whole lot of removal here, but not much in the way of putting up points of our own. So I think as good as Tavern Brawl may be, maybe we rely on Fisstech for the removal. And Firesworn Scribe would have been great along with Helveed, but as I was saying, although we originally planned to save Helveed for round 3, we played it in round 2, so let's swap you out, and a Fallen Knight could be useful here, just we don't have much spawning remaining. The Rain is a little odd, seeing as how we don't yet have any units on the board. We could go with either Vivaldi Bank or Fallen Knight. Fallen Knight would of course get damaged by the Rain, but I think we'd ideally like to use Fallen Knight now and then try to use Vivaldi Bank to get something to boost up Fallen Knight on our next turn. So, bit of a risk, because this Fallen Knight is very vulnerable, but we'll see if they have a way to remove it. It's Oniro, so they very well could. Okay, it's a Messenger of the Sea to get boosted from this rain damage. And then another Messenger of the Sea, which will also get boosted by the rain damage. But it's just 1 point of damage, and we can remove one of them with Fisstech. But first, let's use Vivaldi Bank here. And look for a way to power up our Fallen Knight. Tavern Brawl doesn't work here. It's probably too late for the Firesworn Scribe. Irae is not going to be enough for the Death Blow. And Smuggle is worth the most points on our side. It is going to mean that they'll get a little bit more rain damage here. But now, I guess we go Irae. Hit you for a little bit of boost. And of course the damage. So now we'll use Fisstech to remove likely this Messenger of the Sea or whatever the biggest card is at the end of this turn. Is that going to be sufficient, though? It's a lot more rain. But that armor was actually significant there, because that means they only get 1 boost on each of those Messengers of the Sea, and we can remove the bigger one with Fisstech, and that means we'll take the win. Alright, so going up against Syndicate here, and they'll go first. Okay, so we have some unit spawning with Helveed and Cleaver and Smuggle. We can generate coins when we do that with the Firesworn Scribe, but we'd like to have a Fallen Knight to get boosted in the process. So let's get rid of one of these Smuggles. And Damnation can actually create a Fallen Knight, so that looks good. Okay, they'll start with Cleaver. And of course, we could do the same. But let's actually start with Vivaldi Bank. And, this is not really what I was hoping for. Okay, Fisstech is not enough poison to get rid of Cleaver, because this is not the first special card we're playing, so I think we're going Congregation here. Even though we do not yet have any Firesworn cards on the board, so it's not as strong. This time round, we get Fallen Knight. That is what I was looking for. But would have been a lot better if we'd gotten that first. Okay, then they're using Stolen Mutagens, which they can use to get damage, so they'll take out that Fallen Knight. Then they'll boost themselves and give Veil. But now we can use Damnation to convert our little tokens into Fallen Knights. Then they'll use Philippa to steal one of those Fallen Knights. But before we start spawning in all of our other units, let's try to play the Firesworn Scribe, and hope that this sticks. We'll withhold the tribute, but this will give us coins when we start spawning in our other units. Okay, then it's Payday, which is enough to get rid of one, but not both of those units. And the plan was going to be to use Helveed next to spawn in a bunch of units and give the Fallen Knights a lot of boosts in the process and get some coins refunded back from our scribe, but now that combo is not nearly as good. So we might just play Smuggle here and have this be perhaps even the last card we use in this round and keep this one short, since this is a pretty big deficit we're looking at right here. Okay, then it's Dip in the Palantar, which is enough damage to get rid of Fallen Knight. They'll spawn in more Cleaver's Muscles. And as I was saying, I think we keep this one short because they just had the momentum building in their direction. We never really could make it work, so they'll take the round 1 win. Okay, and we use some unit spawning in round 1. Of course, we still have Helveed and Cleaver, but Congregation gives us more unit spawning, which means Lonely Champion may be relevant here, and if they do dry pass, since they played one more card than us, then this could be our throwaway. They do technically have at least one throwaway card, so they might push a little bit here, but I think we can handle that if they go for it. Okay, they'll go with the Sausage Maker, which does give them some resilience. So I'm thinking that is probably the only card they were planning on playing in this round. But if we go with Tunnel Drill here, we're just tied with them at the moment. So that means we will need to play at least one more card, but since we have at least one more throwaway card, that should be fine. And what we're doing here is we're forcing them to play additional cards to protect that Sausage Maker, like Dip in the Palantar in this case. But now let's use Triss, because with her we can get some damage with Stolen Mutagens. And do it again. Take out this Sausage Maker. Okay, they'll pass, which means we'll win round 2, and we have gained card advantage. So that's huge. Okay, and we draw into some great cards here with Fallen Knight and perhaps most importantly, Hemmelfart, because we can use him to get back the Fallen Knights that we played in round 1. Then Bone Talisman can be our finisher. We do have enough unit spawning that perhaps Lonely Champion will remain relevant here. So I think we stick with this, although would love if we got Desiree. So let's start with this Fallen Knight. And if it gets destroyed, which it very well may, then it's not the absolute end of the world, because of course we can get it back with Hemmelfart. Okay, it's Skewertooth. That is another card that we would have loved to have had. But now let's use Hemmelfart. And with that, get some Congregation going. To spawn in a bunch of units. And then let's use Hemmelfart to convert one of those into either Fallen Knight or, honestly, Firesworn Scribe might be just as important here. Give us some better coin generation. And it's Smuggle. And they'll get out the boat. And I think what we do here is we use Hemmelfart to convert another one of these Firesworn Zealots, this time into a Fallen Knight. And then we use Senior here and convert these guys into cut-up lackeys to give us some damage, which it may be a little too late. Skewertooth might be a little too boosted to take him out, but we will have, of course, a lot of crimes in the near future to deal some damage. Okay, then it's Tavern Brawl, which is well-timed to get rid of the lackeys. And now let's use Helveed. But rather than immediately spawning in these Firesworn Zealots, let's first use Hemmelfart once again to create another Fallen Knight. And then maybe even use our leader ability here. Put the extra boost on Hemmelfart, and then use those coins to spawn in a bunch of these Zealots, and give ourselves tons of boosts on all of these Fallen Knights. Technically, we should have left one spot remaining for the Lonely Champion. But, okay, they're going with Senior here, interestingly enough. So maybe their damage will take out one of these Zealots, which would actually be kind of helpful for us, to be honest. Because we are starting to run out of space, and we can do to them exactly what they did to us using Tavern Brawl. Though, as I said, there was something to be said for letting them destroy one of our cards, and in fact, they'll forfeit. so we'll take the win. So there's a look at a Syndicate, Firesworn, and Crime deck for the new dual casting seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.